Welcome back to Season 5 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. So happy to have you back with me today, as I am every week that we get to share each other's company. So if you're watching on YouTube today, you'll notice I have on my brand new How Will You Survive Changing Earth hat. And it will be my new permanent hat for my podcast. Love it, love it, love it. I have them available for sale on my website. I have them in camo, and then I also have them in black. And I got some really, really slick t-shirts there too. So if you want to go check that out, that would be awesome. And yeah, I'm super stoked to have them. They look pretty cool. You know, sharing the Changing Earth love. If you're watching on YouTube, you might notice I have a little bit of a shiner as well. That's just from training and doing what I do. I'm not much of a makeup girl. So yeah, I got a little bit of a shiner there, and you know, those are the breaks. So I wanted to talk to you today about your training and making sure you are staying vigilant through the winter months. I know it's nice and warm and sunny here in Northern California today. We've had a lot of rain, but today is a nice day and it looks like it's going to be a nice weekend. But I know that's not the case for many of you across the country right now. So I'm encouraging you to stay up on your exercise plans. It is extremely important that we stay vigilant right now. You know, I don't like to get into politics and things like that on my show. However, it's almost like it's a race between the planet and the people right now. And, you know, what's going to strike first? Like, if you've been watching what's going on with Yellowstone, there's been lots of earthquake swarms there about every 3 days, and some interesting stuff going on. So, you know, I mean, I don't want to fearmonger anything, you know, because we've all heard it before. We hear it all the time. Oh, it's going to be the worst. It's going to be the worst ever. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. But the reality is we just don't know when it's going to happen or when we might need our self-defense skills and to make sure that our bodies are in peak condition so that we're able to defend ourselves and get ourselves and our family to where we need to be. So right now, you know, in the wintertime, we want to slack a little bit. Don't feel like going out. Don't feel like getting out and training. So I'm encouraging you to just kind of stay up on it. I'm going to be your motivator and help you out. You know, make sure you're out there training. Oh, I also wanted to share today, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I write the blog over at my martial arts school as well. So if you're interested in physical fitness, the diet that I'm on, you know, just anything that really has to do with martial arts, I do the blog over there as well. So go ahead and check that out. It's auburnmartialarts.com, auburnmartialarts.com, I believe. Just Google it. And I'll provide a link to it. And you can also find out my Facebook page and stuff. So if you're not on Facebook, head over to my website and I'll go ahead and make sure I have a link over there. But yeah, lots of cool articles that I write over there about, you know, the basic punch, kicks, nutrition. We highlight some of the students, you know, different patterns that you can work with your footwork and things like that to start getting yourself more agile. And you know, being so little as I am, that's one of my biggest strengths is my agility. So it's something I care a lot about and work a lot on. So if you're interested in that, head on over there. It's auburnmartialarts.com or Auburn Martial Arts Center. It's one of those two.com. So I really should have known before I sat down to do this recording, I guess. But you guys are all intelligent people. You can figure it out. Alrighty, so last week in the Dark Days in Denver story, Erica and Vince discovered a map of what the current United States looks like. And we had Dr. Schilling on the show. We talked a lot about the realities of ocean level increase and, you know, what that's really going to mean for society. And, you know, so that was an interesting topic to explore, interesting chapter. This week, Vince and Erica are preparing for Denver. So it's this emotional preparation. You're going into a situation that you might not come home from. And so, you know, you really got to make sure that all your ducks are a row and, you know, everything emotionally that you're prepared to do that. And a lot of people face that every day in the United States, whether you're a police officer, you're a private contractor, you're in the military, you know, or you do a lot of the EMS work that Sam Bradley does. So today I have Sam Bradley back on the show, And she's going to talk about, the realities of these situations where frequently you're leaving and going into a situation that you might not come back from. And it's really important to be emotionally prepared, your family as well as yourself, your friends and things like that. So we're going to explore that topic today. And, it's always an honor to have Sam on the show. She's a lot of fun and has a lot of great information. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into chapter 21 of Dark Days in Denver.
Chapter 21. What do you mean he didn't come back? Erica questioned, distressed. Her old friend, Sergeant Julie Ponover, stood solemnly in front of her, her long brown hair tied tightly back in a ponytail. He left with Johnny in the morning to go scout a base. He left Trucker with me, which I thought was weird, Julie explained. Erica motioned for Trucker to come join her as she thought back to the morning Dexter left. She knew his behavior was strange that day as well. Trucker sadly sat down at Erica's side. Why would Dexter do that? Erica wondered. Do what? Vince asked as he approached from the shower. He heard the concern thick in his wife's voice, and when he saw Trucker, his heart skipped a beat. Dexter left Trucker with Sergeant Ponover. He and Johnny never came back from their scouting mission, Erica explained. Did you look for them? Vince asked. Of course we did, but there was no trail at all. Nothing, Julie fretted. Erica bent down to pet Trucker. Where did they go, Trucker? She asked the dog. Trucker looked at her sideways but couldn't tell Erica a thing. The sun tucked behind a thick cloud as Bennett and Nicholton approached. I just heard about Dexter, Bennett told her. What are we going to do first, Sergeant? Erica asked. What can we do? Those boys are ghosts. They know how to cover their tracks. Even if there was time to follow them, we couldn't, Bennett asserted. Vince didn't say much. He was lost in thought, petting Trucker's head. Erica listened absently to the conversation Bennett was having with Nicholton and Pontever. She never heard a word. All she could think of was Dexter. The soldiers left Vince and Erica alone at the tent. What are we going to do, Vince? Erica begged him for an answer. Everything is set to roll on Denver, he replied. I want to go after them too, but... He hesitated. They have to be up to something. If they were captured, they would have left tracks, or Julie would have found the bodies. Don't even say that, Vince. Erica was horrified at the thought her boy might be gone. It's true, Vince admitted. Are your parents going north? Erica inquired, replaying a myriad of concerns like a broken record in her mind. They're packing now. They'll be on the move in the morning, Vince replied, looking sorrowfully at the ground. I'm sorry, baby, Erica said, holding him. This is my fault. No, it's not, Erica. Not everything is about you, Vince responded, irritated with her self-pity. I made choices too. I know, but she was cut short by her mother-in-law's appearance. Hi, Kay, Erica greeted her. Hi, Mom, Vince said. Hi, guys. I know your dad has made his decision, but I just wanted you both to know how much we love you. I understand why you feel you need to do this, Kay explained. Thanks, Kay. That means a lot, Erica replied. Vince looked down with tears in his eyes. You know I love you too, Mom. And Dad, so much, he told her. Kay noticed Trucker's presence. Is Dexter home already? She wondered. No, Mom. He didn't come home, Vince responded. Erica's eyes began to tear up. She wanted to believe he was okay, but dark thoughts of losing him kept surfacing. Kay's eyes filled with tears as well. Hopefully they're okay, but no one can find them, Erica explained. I'll keep him in my prayers, and you guys too. Vince, your father wanted you to have this, Kay replied, handing him a circle of metal. Grandpa's pocket watch? I can't take that, Vince said. Take it. Your father wants you to have it, Kay insisted. I love you guys, she said, leaving suddenly. Megan came by after Kay told her the news, and Erica explained that Dexter was missing in action. The girl was distraught. She would be heading north in the morning and had been eager to see him before she left. No sooner had Megan left when there was a soft rapping on the canvas. Erica got up to open the flap. An old man stood there. Hello, he said. Master Rowan? Erica guessed. Very intuitive, Miss Moore, the man replied. Please come in. Where's Daniel? Erica questioned. Vince was pouring a glass of water for the man as Mr. Rowan sat down at the table. I left him with my best student, Mr. Tillman. He's safe, Mr. Rowan explained. You must be Daniel's father, Vince, he stated as Vince handed him the water. Yes, I am, Vince replied. I came to ask a request of the two of you. Instead of taking Daniel to Denver, let him stay with me and train. There's much he could still learn, the man suggested. Vince and Erica looked to one another. Separating again was not something they wanted to do. But taking Daniel into this battle was not an idea they favored either. I'll care for him like my own, and he'll be safe at the homesteads, Mr. Rowan encouraged when they did not reply. We'll be regrouping here after the battle before we go north, Erica commented. How does Daniel feel about this? Vince wondered. He doesn't know I'm here, Mr. Rowan replied. I wanted to discuss it with you before I gave the boy any ideas. Thank you for that, Vince commented. We'll talk to him tonight and see how he feels. Thank you for hearing me out, the old man said, rising smoothly from his chair. Showing Mr. Rowan out, Erica noticed the son's position. Aren't we supposed to be having dinner with Greg and Penny tonight? Erica asked Vince. Oh, shoot! I totally forgot, Vince said. He didn't want to keep his friends waiting. They headed out into the private tent city. Greg and Penny were already at a table when Vince and Erica arrived at the mess. Where's the family? Vince wondered after they greeted one another. We thought it would be better to come alone, Penny explained. Okay, Erica replied, curious what the night would bring. They got their food and sat down to eat together. They chatted and laughed lightheartedly about times past. Positive memories they could laugh at drowned out all the negative ones that haunted them constantly. The conversation turned to darker matters when Vince and Erica explained the situation with Dexter. How come you haven't got a unit assignment yet, Greg? Erica wondered. She was looking over the groups today and didn't see him on the list. That's what we wanted to talk to you guys about, Greg replied. A lot has happened over the past year. We love you guys so much and support all that you are doing. But you guys aren't going to fight, Vince finished his sentence. We're going to go north with the refugees. They need caretakers and guards. We can be of more use there, Penny explained. I thought we were going to stick together, Erica replied, disappointed by this turn of events. I thought we were going to too, Penny replied. They airlifted your family out of Nevada, and we got left behind. We tried to get them to go back, Erica responded. We know you guys did, but they didn't. They don't care about us. We're just more cannon fodder. It's impossible for you guys to get out, but we still can, Greg explained. We can take our children and maybe be safe, Penny agreed with Greg. We asked you guys to come with us in Las Vegas when we left, and you didn't want to come then either, Erica said, heartbroken. Look at what you went through, Penny retorted. Look at all the good things that came out of it, Erica countered. I'm looking for them, Erica, Penny replied honestly. The two sides still went to war. People are still dying. So you tell me, what good did it really do? Erica didn't have an answer. The fact that people don't know our history together is the only thing that keeps my family safe, Penny continued. I'm sorry, Erica, but that's the truth. Wow. Erica paused, hurt by her friend's statements. I guess then we should have just forgotten about Las Vegas. Do you think they would have gotten you all out of there before the next wave hit? Erica questioned, pausing for a response. When she didn't get one, she continued. No, they wouldn't. We got you out. Don't think we don't appreciate that for a moment, Greg interjected, trying to calm down the two women. We're all family here. I know. I was just expecting to have you with us again, Erica replied, getting her emotions under control. That's just the thing, Erica. You having us with you. We need to be free to choose our own path too, Greg said calmly. I can respect that, Vince interjected. I can too, but I'm sure going to miss you guys, Erica told them with a tear in her eye. Aw, girl, you know we love you, Penny assured Erica, hugging her. We'll see you guys up north as soon as your mission is done. They finished the evening up, and Vince took a moment to pull Greg into a quiet corner so he could tell him about the volcanic threat looming in the distance. Erica was distressed over their decision, but Vince convinced her that it was probably for the best. What if they forced their friends into a battle they didn't want to be a part of? And then something catastrophic were to happen. The guilt would be too much to handle. Seeing the silhouettes of Daniel, Nancy, and Star in the tent, Erica knew everyone was home. Well, might as well get all the difficult conversations over with in one night, Erica suggested to Vince as they walked in. I guess so, Vince responded half-heartedly. Mom, Dad, Daniel lit up, seeing them. Hi, little man, Erica responded. Hello, Star and Nancy greeted them. How come Trucker's here? Where's Dex? Nancy questioned. Everyone looked at Vince and Erica curiously. Today, Sergeant Ponover returned home with the team. She brought Trucker home with the story about how Dexter never came back from a scouting mission, Erica told them. But Trucker came back? Star wondered. Dexter left Trucker with Sergeant Ponover when they left. Vince filled in the blanks, looking at them with an eyebrow raised. What? Nancy wondered. That boy and that dog are always together. I know. That's what makes all this even more strange, Erica agreed. And remember before he left, there was something he wanted to tell me, but didn't. I just know it. Oh yeah, it was weird, Nancy agreed. Who's going to look for him? Star wondered. No one, Star, Vince informed her. Everything is all set for Denver. Plus, you know Dexter, if he doesn't want to be found, he never will be. You're right about that, Star agreed, remembering many scouting missions that they completed in the past. Vince looked at Daniel. The young man was distraught over his brother's absence. Vince went and hugged him tightly. We have something else we need to talk to you about, Vince told him, releasing the boy. What, Dad? Daniel wondered. I know you said you never want to be separated again, and we don't either, Vince began. Yeah, Daniel replied, scared of what his father would tell him next. What if you could stay and train with Mr. Rowan while we went to Denver? We're regrouping back here anyway before we go north, Vince told him, carefully judging his reaction. Daniel thought long and hard on the option. Would Master Rowan be okay with that? Daniel wondered. He came and asked us if we would leave you with him, Erica responded. But we all know what happened last time and how you feel about it. True, Daniel mused. I could stay with him, Nancy interjected. No offense, Vince, but I really don't want to go north with your parents, and I don't want to go south. I want to be with you guys, but I'm not going into some battle. So I'll stay with Daniel at Mr. Rowan's if that's okay with him. Really, Grandma? That would be awesome, Daniel responded, excited about the possibilities. Okay, if that's what you guys want to do, we can talk with Mr. Rowan tomorrow, Vince concluded. The family readied for bed, but Erica's mind was racing. The quiet time had passed. Tomorrow afternoon, they were leaving for Denver. It would be a nighttime assault to try and catch the federal forces dug into the city off guard. She worried about Dexter and where he was sleeping tonight. She worried about her friends and family who would be heading north with Yellowstone on the edge of eruption. She worried about Daniel and her mom staying behind. There were many variables that all needed to run smoothly, and in this reality, that was never guaranteed.
Some distressing news regarding Dexter, but by the end of this day, plans are in place for all of their loved ones, and they're all set and basically ready to go to Denver. So this emotional preparation is super important. And here to talk to us about it today is Sam Bradley. Sam Bradley is a fire and EMS educator. Sam Bradley, MS, EMT-P, has been in EMS for 38 years as a paramedic, clinical and educational services coordinator, and ambulance company paramedic field supervisor. She also spent many years as an EMS educator. Sam currently works as a QI consultant and EMS educator for fire departments and communication centers. A prolific writer, she does freelance work for EMS-related journals, online publications, and textbook publishers. Sam has produced a number of fiction stories and is very involved in social media and blogging. Following her passion for disaster EMS, she is the training officer for the Federal Disaster Medical Assistance Team, DMAT, California-6. She also dabbles in photography and videography. She is currently residing in Colorado and spends her time working on EMS CE content and writing EMS textbooks and novels. She also co-hosts a popular weekly podcast that is in its 5th year. She loves dogs and banana cream pie. You can find Sam at www.disasterpodcast.com. That's www.disasterpodcast.com. So let's go ahead and welcome Sam to the show.
Today, I have Sam Bradley back on the show. Hi, Sam. Thanks so much for joining me again today.
Hey, Sarah. Always glad to be here. We always enjoy ourselves, don't we?
Yes, we do. Today, we have chapter 21 of Dark Days in Denver rolling out, and we have the family, Vince and Erica. They're packing up. They're, suiting up to leave for this battle in Denver. So I really wanted to discuss the emotional preparation that people have to go through because a lot of people are employed as private defense contractors or in the military or in like you do with the DMAT systems and stuff like that, where you're leaving your family to go and fight this battle or perform this task. And there's a lot of emotional stress that comes wrapped up in there. So why don't you go ahead and give a brief introduction and then where people can find you, and then we'll jump right into the topic.
Well, as she mentioned, I'm a 25-year member of the Disaster Medical Assistance Team, actually the one in California, even though I'm in Colorado. I spent most of my life as a paramedic, either in the field, in the fire department, in an ER. As an educator, I've done a number of things, and currently I'm living in Colorado trying to write novels and doing some continuing education content. You can find me on my podcast, the Disaster Podcast, at disasterpodcast.com. We also have a very large Facebook group if you search Disaster Podcast on Facebook. As far as the other social medias, Sam Bradley or Sam Bradley 11 will probably help you find me, and I'm pretty much on all of them.
Awesome. Yeah, it's such an honor to have you on the show, just with your background and everything. It just brings so much, really important content to the listeners. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you can't see me blush, but I am.
So when you have people that are in these situations, when you're getting ready to leave, so I've had friends that like moved away from me or things like that. And sometimes people want to spend as much time with you as possible before they go. And sometimes people tend to start distancing themselves from you before they even leave, just to kind of make that transition smoother. So, how have you seen that yourself, and kind of how do you think that, in your opinion, that you should handle that type of situation?
Well, the problem with DMATs, and our Dr. Joe is on a FEMA team. Sometimes he goes with the IST, and he's out with his own team right now. These things come up quickly. There isn't, I can't plan for a deployment next month, other than the fact I know my team's on call. So if you're in that situation when you're on a specific team, it's still hurricane season until the end of November. So I would tell my family, hey, we're on call next month. Daddy may have to go, mommy may have to go. I don't know yet, but you know how this works. If I'm called, it's going to be quick, and I'm going to have to go. So a lot of this kind of depends on what's the previous history. It's just like with someone in the military. If you're used to them going, if you're used to moving, none of that is going to be earth shaking. But if this is the first deployment, or it's something like Ground Zero, which is the first deployment that they know. And I have to refer back to when we did go to Ground Zero, 16 of us. My friend Steve was driving us to the airport, and he seemed kind of down. And I said, so what is it? He goes, well, I tried to explain to my kids what was going on when they're watching this bad thing on TV. But unfortunately, I didn't realize that when I told them I was going there, that they saw this big, nasty, awful thing on TV and said, you're going there?
Right.
So it was really hard. And he said they all cried when I left, and I'm, really just feeling really bad about it. So a lot of that is, it depends on the event. If it's something like Ground Zero, and I mentioned in a previous podcast, you don't, maybe you don't want your kids focused on social media all that much, or,
Right.
watching TV when there's something really bad on that may be deployed to. So a lot of it depends on that. They could be used to the fact you go or not. But I don't agree with distancing yourself. That's going to, especially small kids, they're not going to understand what you're doing. And they go, what's wrong with daddy? And then we'll talk about coming back, which is a whole different scenario. But you want to spend as much time as you can with them. Try to explain to them why you're going, what you're going to do, that you want to go help people. Like on our DMAT, we help people with their medical needs. The search and rescue helps dig people out of, earthquake scenarios. It's a little different too, obviously, if it's a natural disaster, which is, time limited, versus your battle of survival that you refer to in your books, which is an ongoing thing. It's a whole different world that they have to adjust to. But, let them know I'm coming back. I don't know of too many federal teams that have lost people. Right. I don't know of any, as a matter of fact. So, let them know you're going with a bunch of other people, and DMATs, if they're going into a dicey area, they've got the guard with them, or, they're protected wherever they're going. And let them know that you're just not jumping into the middle of a bad scenario by yourself with no help and nobody to take care of you. And you want to try and instill some pride. Hey, you can tell them my dad is out there helping people. That's helpful too. So the more they understand about what you're doing, even though you inside might be going, oh my God, why am I going there? Let them know, it's still that sense of pride. I'm going there to help people. And if a lot of the people that are on these teams are firefighters and EMS folks and cops and others, so they're kind of used to them being in a dicey scenario, a dicey job, and that their goal is to go out and help people. So that shouldn't be too much of a transition, especially on my kind of team. And FEMA teams, maybe not, I don't know so much, even though a lot of them are firefighters. So I think there's kind of that, in those families, there's that understanding anyway. Daddy may have to leave right away and, he's going to this bad place to help people. So, but I don't agree with distancing yourself, because your kids aren't going to understand that.
Yeah, I don't agree with distancing yourself. Even like before a move, I was like with my buddy, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, come on, you're not gone yet. Like, he's like, yeah, it's just so hard. I'm like, dude, well, get over it, because I want to see you before I want to spend as much time with you as possible before I can't anymore.
Well, and it was because he was feeling bad about it. He was feeling like he's abandoning people, and he didn't want to face that. If he would really think about how you were feeling, it's like, oh yeah, okay, let's have some beers and a couple laughs and talk about all the stuff we've done. He's feeling bad and doesn't want to face that. So that's another piece of the scenario there.
Yeah. So it's like, don't do that to your family, don't do that, because it's not cool. It's not a good way to be.
Right.
So obviously every individual is different. Everybody's going to handle this differently. But what are some of the ways we can begin to address the dangers that we or our loved ones may be facing when we go into that reality? So, if you're heading out as a, somebody who's going into more of a war zone or things like that. I love the idea that you said about the team, letting them know that you have a team that you're going with. So at least your family would understand you got people that have your back. I hadn't really thought about that. But what do you think about that idea?
Oh yeah. And interestingly, how Facebook's give you the little memories from years ago. It popped up yesterday with a picture of our team at Ground Zero. All 16 of us standing there together in front of one of the tents. And that makes me reflect on that. If you had something like that, you'd say, look, this is my team. They're all going with me, even though it's only 16 of us. They're going to be there with me, and they're going to help me when I need help. So it really kind of depends on the type of deployment. But you're talking about, let's use an earthquake as an example. USAR teams are out there digging around in very tentative structures, trying to get people out.
Right.
So when you talk about the danger level, that's much more so for the FEMA teams than it would be for a DMAT. We all put our tent up and we treat people. So it's a bit of a different scenario. So, and they have to deal with heat and cold and dehydration and all of those different things. So you don't go into that with them, certainly. But again, I think the strength in that is letting them know, hey, we have all this sophisticated equipment to help us find people. And, what if mommy was stuck in the rubble and you'd want somebody to get her out, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So it kind of depends on the type of deployment. So, but I kind of default to USARs because they are in more dangerous circumstances. So again, instill that sense of pride, in your kids. Hey, we're going to go out and save somebody who's a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, that kind of thing. So again, just let them know you're not going to be alone out there. And that's why we discourage people from ever thinking about freelancing. We've had this discussion a number of times.
Okay.
Don't ever freelance as far as trying to, everybody wants to help in a disaster, but if you're not trained, if you're not with a team, and all of a sudden, wherever the incident, Ground Zero was a perfect example of that. Firefighters were just up and leaving their stations and showing up there. Okay, I'm a firefighter, I can help dig. Well, what is the system going to do with these millions of volunteers that they don't even know? You say you're a doctor, how do we even know you're a doctor? I mean, that's a whole different situation. But it creates more problems than it fixes.
Yeah, you need that team for the organization to make it happen, and you got to have a backup, a buddy. You always need a battle buddy.
Yeah. And in general, one of our rules is when we're out on a deployment, we never go anywhere alone. We don't even go to the bathroom alone. We have somebody with us all the time. It's a buddy system, like you were referring to. We don't go anywhere alone. So, I think that's the biggest thing is just, let them know you're not going to be alone. And if anything did happen to you, you'd have people there to take care of you. They can remind you to get adequate rest and convince them you're going to, it's just like all these kids we talked about before, writing letters to Ground Zero, that were reminding us, eat a healthy diet, make sure you drink enough, get enough sleep, talk to your family. And we weren't doing that.
Yeah. Sometimes we're more critical of others, right? So we're like, oh, well, you should be doing this and that. You don't look good.
Right.
You need sleep. And we're not even looking at ourselves in the mirror going, oh my gosh, I need sleep.
Was I doing it? Was those kids that reminded us, well, hey, when's the last time I had any downtime? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the big thing is don't focus on the dangers. Now, when they, Ground Zero was kind of an exception because they were seeing all the destruction. So naturally, they're going to go, oh, my God, what's going to happen if this falls on you or whatever, or, even natural disasters, the effects of Florida hurricanes and, all the trees falling down and all those kinds of things. So the more you can let them know you're prepared for that as much as we can be. And, you have people there to take care of you. If something should happen, they're going to feel much more at ease.
I like that. Yeah, focus on the positive outcomes that you're going to make happen instead of the scary stuff that you're going to be facing.
Yeah, well, this tree could fall on me 100 years old, 5 million pounds, but other than that.
But it's good. Don't worry about that. So sometimes, do loved ones become angry because they're constantly put in like this emotional state of not knowing if their family member is going to come home or not? And then if so, how do you work through that kind of situation?
That's a really interesting question. And a lot of that depends on the people that are in your family. If you have a narcissistic wife, for instance, and I've seen this happen with, firefighters.
Let's be PC, spouse.
And and cops, who kind of have this on a daily basis, with their type of jobs. My first advice would be choose your spouse wisely. Because like I said, most of the people that do disaster work also work in these other fields. And so they kind of are used to, which is maybe a good thing, that you could face danger, but in general you'll probably come home. So this isn't probably any worse than your day on the job. But you get somebody who's narcissistic and they're angry because they want you to be there to fix everything and deal with the kids and and they feel abandoned if you don't. Dealing with a spouse is a whole different thing than dealing with your kids. If your spouse tends to have those feelings of abandonment or anger over what it is you're doing, do your best to do what you would do with your kids. Convince them that you're doing something good and they should be proud of you for that. Communication is the big thing. I mean, if it's a really narcissistic personality, you're not going to get too far because they're not changing their personality. But sitting down and talking to them and, well, what happens if the freezer breaks? Well, get somebody to fix it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. How do I handle those little problems?
Yeah. If it's somebody's personality trait, you're not going to be able to do much about it. But again, given that these people already work in scary jobs, they probably would be used to it. And I would think, I referred in another podcast to Dr. Joe, or Dr. Joe's wife, Kimberly. And she, when he's on deployment, she is always posting things on Facebook. Well, I heard from him and he's doing this, and he sends her pictures and he's doing great. And they just saved this heart attack victim. And it makes him feel good. It makes her feel good to let people know how proud she is of him.
Yeah.
And that's a best case scenario, and that's what it should be. But
so really letting them share in your successes,
exactly,
and keeping them up to date. Yeah.
And everybody wants to know how they're doing out there, and wants to know. Our listeners get they get a big charge out of the fact that when there's a disaster, our regular podcasts get pushed to the side. And if one of us is in the field, or like last year with the hurricanes, Joe and I were both in the field, and hearing those updates from the field makes them really feel special, because they're part of our core group and they kind of get this level of communication most people don't. And Kimberly takes us a step farther, and for anybody interested in what's going on the ground, boots on the ground folks, it lets them know what's going on as far as where they are and what they're doing, and they're digging over here, or they're doing flood rescues over here, or some really good thing that happened, which really did happen in Florida. They were transporting from one area to the other, and a guy had a heart attack and they stopped and helped him. And if they hadn't been there, who knows how long it would have been before if he survived it at all.
Yeah, if he would have survived at all. Exactly.
Those are the kind of things that she will put up there for everybody else. So it's a win-win for everybody. But again,
then they can really get behind you and know, like, the next time you go out, that hey,
they're part of the process. One thing our DMAT has is, if you can't deploy, you can be part of a home team. And what the home team does is they stay in communication with the families. If we know that they're really having a hard time with it, then someone else from the team will interact with them, or with their kids, or something. Or I won't go into specifics, but there were some issues that occurred at Katrina that really were dangerous, and they should have been involved in. And when news of that hit, oh my God, so that's when the other team members who knew what was going on really reached out to the families. Hey, it's okay. They're out of the situation. Everything's good. So it's all a team effort, and your families are part of that team. And, but again, it depends on their personalities. If you have a spouse who is narcissistic and tends to feel abandoned or angry, there's only so much you can do about that. But, we do the best we can to help them see the upside of this.
Yeah, and that's really the key, because then it makes it easier each time you're going out. Each time you're going out makes it easier and easier to handle. So kind of like the education thing that we keep talking about, that came up last topic.
Exactly.
Making people aware of what's going on and all the great things that you're doing out there. Can kind of be interesting, I'm sure. Like, if it was a military situation, it might be different, because a lot of times they can't talk about what they're doing out there and things. So, that would make it a little bit more dicey, but I'm sure you could still get the understanding of, we're going out there to help people, to save people, to ensure, maintain freedoms throughout our world.
Exactly.
So when you return, are you going to discuss like the threats that you faced and how you overcame them? Um, I would think you'd want to, like you say, keep it on the positive, all the good things you did, instead of like, oh man, it was epic. This tree just missed us by like 2 inches. I would have been dead, kind of thing.
No.
Right.
It's just like working in EMS or fire or police. Again, a lot of it has to do with your interaction with your spouse. I think everybody working in those fields ought to have marry somebody who's also in that field. Because if you get home, say an EMS from a gnarly accident, and you feel the need to talk about it, you don't want to hear, ew, I don't want to hear about this.
I don't even like blood.
Really, I don't want to hear about that. Versus somebody, even if you're an EMS and your spouse is a cop, they still get it. And they're still okay with you talking about it because they need to talk, you need to talk about it. So, but again, I wouldn't, especially with your kids, I wouldn't focus on anything that's negative. Again, good things like I mentioned the USAR, saving that guy with a heart attack and a lady with anaphylaxis. Like, guess what happened? We had a chance to really help some other people, and that wasn't even our goal out there, but it came to us, and so we did, and we feel really good about that. The getting home part is really kind of a big topic for me, because I think families really need to be educated on what to do and what to expect. Celebrate the homecoming, but don't plan a party. The last thing we want is a whole bunch of people around asking questions, because that's what they're going to do. Your kids are going to ask questions. If your wife doesn't care, your husband doesn't care, but how gnarly. It's like they ask you, if you work in EMS, what's the bloodiest thing you ever saw?
Right. So you get to live that each time.
How do you deal with it? I said, well, we put the pieces and parts back together and take them to the ER and focus on our training rather than how we feel about it. Kind of the same thing. We are probably going to want to sink into ourselves for a while. We are processing. We're processing a lot, and you can't process what's going on in your head while you're in a work mode, while you are there. So we don't start processing a lot until we get home. So it may mean your family needs to understand, I'm going to sleep a lot. I'm going to stand in the shower for a long time. I don't want to talk about this at all. When I do, I may focus just on the positive moments, but don't expect me to jump right back into normalcy, because, and I can tell you right now, everybody that deployed at Ground Zero, it took us weeks to, your worldview of bad is altogether different. And you can't expect, you're like, well, the washer broke, you need to go fix it. No, leave me alone.
And now you need to go take the kids and do all this running around and
Yeah, and your son, no. I just, I'm not ready to jump back into that level of normalcy. I need to process all of this stuff I just dealt with. So it's very possible they don't want to talk about it at all. Right. And it's possible your family doesn't want to hear it, which is fine. Again, when you do get around to talking about it, which is a good thing, focus on the positive. Providers need support. When I say providers, I'm talking about disaster workers in this scenario. They need support from someone. If they do need to talk about, I can guarantee you that every team that deploys will have a debriefing when they get back, and that's the formal process. If they don't, I'd be very surprised, but we've always done that. If I'm at home, we set up a debriefing, because that's when they've been in it. We set it for several days past their coming home, so they have time to process all of this. They need support from somewhere, but their families may not. They need support from their families, but it's a whole different level of support. So we need
because you're going to be more guarded when you talk to your family about what happened.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have somebody who's like outside of it, you can really lay out the nitty gritty of what you went through. I
And
could
that's
see
what
that.
you need to do, but you need to do it with people that understand it, that are
Hmm.
mental health professionals and can tell you how best to deal with it. And then maybe you can feel comfortable talking to your family about what you want to talk to them about. It's hard too when there's multiple deployments. And we saw that last year with the hurricanes. Both Joe and I were deployed for all of the hurricanes. So now you have the added stress of, well, gee, he was here for 3 days and now he's gone again, you know. So those feelings of abandonment may be, you know, exaggerated just a little bit. But again, it depends on whether that's something they are used to and they can cope with and they appreciate. But let your hero, let your returning disaster worker, or your person coming in from the war and your dysfunctional society take the lead on what they want to discuss and when they want to discuss it. Your role as a family member is better to listen than to ask a lot of questions. And that's a natural tendency for kids. Oh, they want to know all about it. It's like, yeah,
Right. Tell me what happened.
it.
Tell me what happened.
Yeah. But we need an adjustment period. We need some downtime, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
What you want to do as a family, though, too, is watch. We talked about PTSI, which used to be PTSD, post-traumatic stress injury, which the symptoms of that may not show up for a while. So if dad is still down and depressed 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, well, maybe we need to get another level of help for them. Be familiar with the signs and symptoms of PTSI. And if you start to see them, you know, encourage them, go to their team if you need to, because they will have resources available or they will make them available. And that's a whole different thing. But as we talked in another podcast, you do everything you can to prevent that from happening. And that happens best through good communication, constant communication, but communicate with them when they are ready to and let them discuss as much as they want. Again, in the beginning, just listen. Maybe they need to spew out a lot of what they felt there. If you don't understand it, if it makes you just, you know, uncomfortable, deal with it.
Deal with it. Yeah.
What they need to do.
Yeah.
But keeping the lines of communication open and not the ew, I don't want to hear about that, it's yucky, is not going to be very helpful.
Right.
So give them their downtime, give them their time to recoup and adjust. And it's the same thing occurs for adjusting back into the work world, you know, and when they're ready to talk about it, they'll talk about it. Or when they need to talk about it, be open to them.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes you got to just shut your mouth and listen. And that's the best thing that's for, you know, for your loved one. You want to always try to help and like make it better, right? How can I make it better? How can I make it better? And sometimes the best thing you can do is just be quiet and listen. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And all of the critical incident stress training we've done is just, you can acknowledge what they're saying. So you know that they know that you're actually listening to them, but let them talk. If they're in a mode where they need to spew their guts, then let them do that. And when they're done, and that's what we do in debriefings after, you know, that's a more formalized process. It has certain steps that go through, but we have that spew their guts moment. And then we educate them on what things they can do to help themselves recover.
Got it.
And so the families obviously aren't going to be as well trained in that, but you do need to be trained again in the signs and symptoms of PSTI if down the road you start to see them.
And as a family member, it might not be a bad idea to get educated. Like if you have a spouse that's being deployed all the time or who's a, you know, private defense contractor or something like that, might not be a bad idea to educate yourself to be able to provide that support for them when they come home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're going to get, say you're a firefighter, you know, there's already inherent dangers in being a firefighter.
Right.
And they're gone 24 hours and there's all of that. So again, it goes back to picking your spouse. But if you have someone who's understanding of that and willing to cope with the potential dangers, you know, you're ahead of the game. And when you decide to get into disaster work, you know, it's just taking another step in that direction. And those are the people that tend to do it. So your spouse is more likely to be open to, you know, gee, I know I hear about when he has
probably wouldn't have taken that in the beginning.
Right. Yeah. So it's not too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
But you want to just say you decide to become a disaster worker. or any of the things that you discussed. Talk about it with your family first. This is what I want to do and why I want to do it. I think it's important, and I want you to be proud of me for doing it. But these are some of the things as a family that we're going to have to cope with. How am I going to feel when I get home?
Right.
Just all of the things we discussed.
How are we going to feel before we leave? Yeah. What's going to,
Right.
Fair enough.
I will have reactions to this because it's hard to walk away from a really tough scenario like that and come home and have everything normal. So give us time to readjust.
Well, Sam, I think that we pretty much took care of it there. I like to do those episodes just because I do have a lot of people who are in military deployments and stuff like that, and they really like having tools in their toolbox to know how to handle the family situations. It seems like, that a little more education needs to be done there for folks that are in those kinds of situations, and sounds like it's the same way when you're on a disaster team and things like that. So hopefully everybody got some good tools they can put in their toolbox there.
And I will point out, there's a lot of assets out there that give you this information. And,
Yes.
and one of them is called SAMHSA. It's Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. It's a governmental administration, but they have a lot of really good information. Much of what I talked about is in documents that they have. CDC also has a lot of good documentation. There's a lot of good stuff out there if you really want to educate yourself on your deploying member, whether it's military or disaster or whatever else. So you can be prepared, because the healthiest thing you can do for them is to be there as a support, not chastising them for being away or anything else. Make them feel like the true heroes they really are.
Yep. I agree. It's being prepared. That's what it all comes down to.
Always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Don't hide your head in the sand. Be prepared. Just face it up. Face up to reality. Be ready for what's coming down the pipeline.
And that's what we like to do on our podcast too, is give people these tools. And I love it when they come on our Facebook group and say, wow, this CISM session really helped me, because these are things I didn't realize. It helped me out. It helped me in a bad situation that I wouldn't have known what to do. So just what we're doing today, getting this information out to people. And I appreciate you and all of your compadres getting this kind of information out to people, because they might just need it. When they need it, they'll have it, and they know where to go to get more information.
It just seems to make life so much more easy when you're educated on things.
Yes.
There's just endless stuff for us to learn on how to handle these types of situations. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
All right, Sam, why don't we wrap it up? Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at the Disaster Podcast, and so I can get over there and start listening. And because like I say, it's a really cool podcast, and it's always fun to hear when you guys are out in the field and things like that, and then great information to learn as well.
Well, we try to keep them up to date at the moment on what's going on. Disasterpodcast.com. You can come over there. You can listen to the episode right on the site. You can put it into your iTunes. There's any number of ways of getting the episodes. Good going to work listening. Yeah. We also, again, have our Disaster Podcast group in Facebook. We have about 650 members over there. And it's a good way for guests that we've had on for our community, as we call them, to ask questions of our guests that have been on. Most of them end up over there. And
I'm over there.
Yeah, our meteorologists particularly love being on Twitter. They are like Twitter freaks. So you're going to see them all the time on Twitter. That seems to be their favorite place. So we pretty much have social media covered. You'll find me under Sam Bradley or Sam Bradley 11.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sam. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Glad to contribute to the cause.
Thanks, Sam, so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I can't tell you how much I just really value your input into the Changing Earth podcast, and what a pleasure it is to have met you and got to share some stories with you and some good times. Thank you, my Patreon supporters, for all that you do for the show. Your guys' support is awesome, and you are the rock stars of the Changing Earth world. If you would like to become a Changing Earth rock star, head on over to www.patreon.com/changingearth or head on over to my website at www.author.sarahfhathaway.com and you can get signed up there. It really costs as little as about $3, which is, pretty cheap per month if you want to just show your support and love for the Changing Earth podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Remember to get out there and train. Keep your bodies strong. It's very important. And I really, really appreciate the fact that you take the time out of your day to not only listen, but to keep yourself strong and in shape and doing what you got to do for when you need to call upon your body. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, and Dark Days in Denver at www.author.sarahfhathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.